Alhamdulillah, continue on in our study of the Salafee upon the path. We reached the lesson number 1 by Sheikh Abdus Salam al-Suhaimi. After the introductions, he said, what is meant by a sunnah? What is meant by a sunnah? He says, once it is acknowledged that from the names of Ahl Sunnah, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is a Salafiyun, then it is befitting to define the term a sunnah in the language and its usage, mustalahat or istilah. Thereafter, we will go after the definition of the names of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and mention the reason for that. The sunnah in the language means way in history. The scholars of the language have differed as to whether a sunnah is restricted to being the way which is good, or whether it comprises that which is good as well as that which is evil. That which is correct is what is intended by it in linguistic terms, meaning it is the way, whether it is good or vile. The proof of that is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which he says, whoever enacts within al-Islam a good sunnah, he will have its reward, and the reward of whoever has acted by it. Whoever enacts an evil sunnah, upon him is its punishment, and the punishment of whoever acted upon it. Hence, the Prophet ﷺ divided the sunnah into good sunnah and evil sunnah. Ayyul Ahbab, we need to understand, we're not talking about the Prophet ﷺ sunnah. His sunnah is only good. So he's talking about from a linguistic point of view, and that sometimes the Messenger ﷺ used the sunnah in this context, where it could refer to the evil sunnah of the evil people, the evil way of the evil people, or the good way of the people of good, or the people who followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or his sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As for the definition of a sunnah in the legislation, then it has a usage according to the scholars of hadith, just as it has a usage according to the scholars of usul and the scholars of fiqh. In the usage of the scholars of hadith, it is that which is narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from statements, actions, tacit approvals, physical descriptions, or history. It is the same if it was before his being commissioned with prophethood or afterwards. Whereas in the usage of the scholars of usul, a sunnah is applied to that which is transmitted from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it has not been textualized in the mighty book. Rather, it has only been textualized by way of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a clarification for that which was first mentioned in the book. Meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sunnah is a practice of the Quran, and it's a clarification of the Quran, unlike those people who are mubtadi'ah and who deny the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He goes on to state, Ayyul Ahbab, he says the term a sunnah is also applied in the usage of the fuqaha, the scholars of fiqh, jurisprudence, to that which is not compulsory. So it is said this thing is a sunnah, meaning it is not obligatory, nor is it a compulsory wajib, nor is it prohibited or disliked. For example, when often we say, I'm going to pray the sunnah prayers. That means the way we use it and the way the fuqaha use it is meaning that those actions in Islam which you don't have to do, but you'll be rewarded if you do it. For example, if you pray the rakatayn of Fajr, or you pray 4 rakats of Dhuhr before Salatul Dhuhr, meaning before the Iqamah, after the Adhan. Those are the Sunnah prayers, but they're not obligatory. And so this is how the scholars of fiqh have used it. But the classicists, meaning from the Salaf, they didn't use it like this. That doesn't mean this is madhmuma, but we do have to know the evolution of these terminologies, that they weren't always used in the same way. Then he goes on to say, he says, so it is said, so-and-so is upon the sunnah, if his actions correspond with the book of Allah and the sunnah of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is said, so-and-so is upon bid'ah, if his action opposes the book and the sunnah, or one of the two.